In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. All right. So welcome everyone. I guess I'm still giving these talks. Um, I wrote a title today, and it's something I don't normally talk about, but it's something I guess relevant to my recent experiences. It's not really my field, so I'm gonna advise people to go and listen to somebody else, but I'm gonna still share my views. Okay. Honestly, guys, I want to play this song. Hold on, there's a song that's come into my mind. Okay, there we go. All right. Honestly, this doesn't do it either. Okay. All right. This works. Actually, all right. Where? All right, guys. Sorry about that. To continue. So, in the title, you're going to see I wrote beyond, believe beyond people. But I'm going to change that to right now also believe beyond people. And I'm going to speak about something that, again, um, I know that there are others who have a greater clarity and viewpoint on it, but I'm going to share my perspective. So I'm going to write it in the chat section for. Okay. So, so dear viewers, I've written it in the chat section. Anyways, I want to get into this. I don't normally give talks about this kind of stuff, but anyways, check out Esther Perel. I'm going to see how this talk goes. There's something to say, of course. So this episode includes me researching um, a view into toxicity, what toxicity means, and what love bombing means. And it's honestly, I'm trying to tell everybody, be cautious. Be cautious, because words, um, they may appear they are coming from somewhere, but they are coming from somewhere else. You know? So we're going to go into the research component first, okay? And then I'm going to get into the main. So we're going to go into the subtitle. I pretty much asked AI to kind of explain it very quick. So this is what AI says. What toxic behavior actually is. So I'm reading this, guys, and why humans misunderstand it. So I'm going to read it. Toxic behavior is not about being rude, angry, or emotional. At its core, toxicity is behavior that destabilizes another person's psychological balance in order to regulate one's own emotional state. Wow. So, guys, if you are trying to stabilize yourself at the cost of somebody else's psychology, that's the definition of toxic. Okay? It says, in simple terms, toxic behavior occurs when a person cannot manage their inner emotions and therefore uses another human being to feel safe, powerful, calm, validated, or in control. Toxicity is not defined by intention. Many toxic people do not mean harm. It is defined by impact, whether the behavior consistently creates anxiety, confusion, pressure, dependency, or self doubt in another person. When a relationship causes a person to lose clarity, confidence, or a sense of self, that relationship is operating toxically, regardless of how loving the words may sound. So, guys, this is a very important point here. Let me see who's listening. Is there anybody here? Hey, empty halls. Empty halls. Hopefully, not before I die. So, guys, I'm going to zoom in here. There's something important here. Man, I don't have a pen. Where's my pen? Okay, whatever. So it says toxicity is not defined by intention. Many toxic people do not mean harm. Okay, so that means you might be behaving in a way that appears normal to you, but it may be coming across as toxic to others. Do you understand? Now, we have to consider this because I'm just thinking a bit earlier in history, and I'm kind of realizing even prior to toxicity, there was savageness. There was like chaos, a very limited threshold of civility. What you really see Um, it's pretty much raising at the value of the lowering of others, which means wanting to be superior is toxic, can be seen as toxic. It says when a relationship causes a person to lose clarity, confidence, or a sense of self, that relationship is operating toxically, regardless of how loving the words may sound. So, guys, I'm going to share something very profound, something I don't think anybody's said this sentence like this. But I'm in my conscious waking state, I feel that I'm a attentive individual, and I notice things that sometimes others don't. However, I want to say that in this lifetime, I have met people who are subconsciously smarter. That means the person can be a fool in their conscious mind, they're behaving like a fool, acting like a fool, but subconsciously, it's as if something's keeping them in check. And usually, these beings are in a different field. That means they're not alone. All of you think you're alone. And it's funny because you can't see. We can't see from the human perspective. At best, maybe you can feel it. You know, think of it this way. When, okay, let me read this part and then I'll explain that part easier. It says why. So when we go to the next part, so first part was what toxic behavior actually is and why humans misunderstand it. We go to the next part, why love bombing is toxic at its core. Love bombing is toxic because it uses emotional intensity instead of emotional stability to create connection. Rather than allowing trust to develop naturally over time, love bombing overwhelms the nervous system with excessive affection, praise, attention, or future promises. This creates a false sense of closeness that feels powerful but is psychologically fragile. The toxicity appears when the intensity becomes conditional. Affection is maintained only if the other person reciprocates at the same speed, depth, or level of emotional availability. When boundaries are introduced, such as asking for time, space, or realism, the connection weakens, shifts, or collapses. This reveals the core toxicity. The relationship was not built to support two independent humans, but to regulate one person's emotional insecurity through another. Wow. Wow. Love bombing is toxic not because it looks like love, but because it cannot survive autonomy, patience, or reality. So, guys, again, I'm not like some relationship coach, but what this is saying is that right now, I don't know how many couples there are on the planet, but 100%, a percentage of these couples, they're not living as if mutually. Do you understand? And of course, traditionally, the how do I say it? The masculine adjusts to the feminine because it's easier for the masculine. You know. However, we cannot ignore that there are two human beings, let's say a man and a woman in a relationship. They have different bodies. In the level of bodies, you have to be considerate, you know, physical strength, difference, for example, I don't know, jacked up men going into women's sports, like that's messed up. That's honestly like chaos, I think. But it's cruel. It's cruelty. It's not chaos. It's cruelty. But anyways, It's very important to realize the inner workings of human beings, and that outer appearances and even flattery and nice words can be very deceptive. And it might be deceptive not in the sense that the person is deceiving you, but in the sense that they don't even know they're doing it, or you might be doing it and you don't even know. Do you know? And it's the whole thing of the person, rather than letting something, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I think most young men know, the impact of a compliment um, on others, and to me, how do I say it? This world conditions you to be good and honest and to trust it. However, who is trusting? That's the question. People are trying to be good, but we don't know what the self really is. And so, guys, be careful in any relationship you go. If you suddenly hear the person saying, uh, love, be very careful, you know, because it's in actions, not words. That means somebody could say something, but their actions could be different, you know? And, in reality, if you make the personal gain more important than the mutual gain, you destroy any relationship. Do you know what destroys most relationships? It's very clear to me now. Self-importance. But it shows when you care, so I'll give you an example. Like, imagine you're with someone, you're dating someone, and they keep saying I love you. They start even using terms, in the sense of like fitting the roles and whatnot, boyfriend girlfriend roles and all of this. But then you begin to see their actions don't match their communication. Okay. And that's when you can know that the person is standing differently in their inner realms, and they have fed you a version of them, and you're believing that version. You don't know who that individual actually is. Okay. So be very careful. I'm going to say this especially to men, because we're known to be more foolish. You I don't know. I mean, some men, I can understand, people cultivating emotional intelligence in different phases and positions in their life. Some people, you can have, let's say, um, you know, how do I say it? There are families out there that it's just like, it's like, just boys in the family. There's a family where it's just girls in the family. Do you know? Right? And it's as if there's a disparity. I don't know how to explain it. Yes, it is true that the father has to come in some sense. The mother has to display unconditional love in the archetype and in its archetypal role. And the father has to show conditional love. Do you know that means the father's role is to kind of be the, how do I say it? I'll give you the best example of it. I saw this video. It was this Chinese video, like in China, right? And this kid falls from the chair, do you know? And it's so advanced. Like, sometimes, to me, like, some cultures are very, like, they didn't make mistakes other cultures did, do you know? To me, Japan is one of them, But anyways, I think their back pain is a lot though in that country. Yo, chiropractors move to Japan. That's your market. No, I'm joking, guys. Anyways, to go back to it. See, the father, so in the video, you're seeing a restaurant, okay? In China, they have these cool round circular tables, and there's like another circular part on it that rolls, right? So, anyways, there's this kid, there's this family sitting around this table, circular table, and this young kid, maybe like a couple years old, he barely is like on the chair, he falls from the chair. The moment he falls from the chair, the mother's like, oh my God, my child, unconditional love. Let me help you, poor soul, in this world. And the father's like, no. The father tells the mother no. And he looks at the kid and he says, he slaps on the chair and he's like, get up on the chair. The kid tries the first time, can't do it. The father says, get up again, right? And then the kid does it. The second time he does it. He gets on the chair and then the father hugs him and gives him the rewarding behavior. Do you understand? And the whole point of it is, of course, this is something, many parents don't know, but you should not solve your children's problems. You will destroy their psyche. Be very careful. You will in some sense, you know, send them into the world as oblivious robots. Don't solve your kids' problems, guys. Where I'm going with this is there are families that, and Carl Jung speaks about this, right? It's kind of, I don't know, I guess in some division of like the psychological acknowledgement of the male and female energy within the individual. See, so there's the gender, there's the physical male, physical female, but then there are behaviors that we've masculinized and feminized. Do you understand? And more gentler and attention to detail is feminine, and more like expansion and, how do I say it, like quick decisions is more like that. You know what I mean? And of course, evolutionary, there's an explanation, because women had to, like, I don't know, be aware of like the children in the tribe, take care of everything, prepare things. Their attention had to be on multiple tasks, but the male archetype had to go do one very hard task. You know, like that's like the traditional. Okay, like doesn't get more traditional than evolutionary tribe psychology. Okay, like so. Anyways, where am I going with this? Again, guys, for these topics on, I don't know, like relationships and emotional intelligence and all of this, I said Esther Perel. Go check it online. I have lived in with a different sensitivity to reality. The reason why at first I said believe beyond people, because you don't know what people are believing in. You don't know their intentions. You just get to see the result of whatever's going on behind their eyes before they act. Okay? And you can totally know, do you know? You can totally know, right? If a person cares based on not words, actions, or maybe words at the right time. Do you know? That means a man could be like, I love my wife, do you know? But his actions don't show it. Do you know? Like, I don't know, some person's girlfriend can come up to them and say, I love you, honey, something like that, And it's gonna be like the action is not like, do you know what I mean? It's about the care in the vital moments of life. If that is not there, you see, because it's about, I don't know, at least in my understanding, there's there's levels of responsibility. To me, a relationship is an ability to respond. Okay, it's a responsibility. Everything pretty much is a responsibility, because you want to see it manifest in a certain way. Do you know? That means if you don't become responsible, for your hair, like your hair is going to look, I don't know, if you have curly hair, it's going to look like you're going to look like you have an afro. You know, so you go and buy a comb. You know, you become responsible for something you have become aware of that, in some sense, pretty much requires regular maintenance. To me, I'll be honest, this is a kind of a tangent, but I am getting bored of this world. And I don't say that in an ungrateful way. It is very fascinating. I should say it differently. I am not bored of the world. I don't know so much of the world. I am bored of the self's same way of like function, the looping nature of its functioning. Sometimes I ask myself, why do I exist? And I look at a drop of paint on a canvas and I'm like, oh, is it to just be a detail in the cosmos? Like if you zoom in on this part of this earth, and in this part, like in this part of the land on this earth, and you keep zooming in, you'll see me giving a podcast. It's like what a fine tiny detail in the vastness of the cosmic activity. you know to be honest, a part of me, I forgot to mention something. I was building up to it, and then I went on a tangent. So Carl Jung speaks about major archetypes to getting to know, to the real self as a being. Carl Jung speaks about this. Go check it out. Um, One of the major archetypes is understanding these concepts of the anima and the animus. Okay, you know, and the word anima in Italian means soul. But anyways, it's irrelevant trivia right there. But so there's anima and animus, but the way Carl Jung uses these, okay, he's suggesting to the opposite. How do I say it? So if you're a man, you need to get to know the anima. You need to confront, this might sound bizarre to you, but your female archetype, your archetype's female version. Sorry, I should, no. I should choose my words correctly. You should have the capability in behind your eyes as an unknown witnessing force, not an idea yet, to be capable of witnessing various ideas, and sometimes ideas that come in in pairs, in a duality. Do you know what I mean? That means, think of it this way. If someone is acting very masculine, do you know, the opposite, it comes in a pair. The opposite is very feminine. Do you know? Again, if somebody's acting feminine, the opposite being masculine, what I'm saying is pretty much, how do I explain it to you? You have to confront the duality you find outside of your eyes, behind your eyes. There's something they haven't taught the human species. You're actually not a person. You are the awareness before any expression of yours. Okay? So if you think of it as a human, yeah, it's so weird. I can't imagine a female version of myself. Like Carl Jung is saying, balance it out in regards to understand the duality of your psyche. Do you know? I'm talking about the male and female energy, guys, not the gender. Like this is very, how do I explain this? We need somebody like, I don't know, somebody like Jordan Peterson or something like to speak about this. you know? but but anyways, what I'm trying to tell you is very simple. So in front of your eyes you have the outer realms, okay, which means you're accessing a physical reality. We're all in this external outer realms in front of your eyes, in front of all of our eyes. Okay, we're in the same world room. Now here's the thing. If your eyes are open and you see a tree, I can say that these are your eyes. Okay, I can say that you saw the tree. There's a you, there's specific eyes. But if I tell you close your eyes and imagine a memory of a tree you saw in your childhood, do you know? There is no light entering your eyes, but your eyes are closed, yet you are seeing it. You are seeing the memory. Let us not act this whole time we can't see when our eyes are closed. Okay, so it's in the inner realms. And in the inner realms, the geometry translates without needing to identify with the geometry. That means most people are personalizing everything they're witnessing, or everything's happening to them. It's being personalized all the time. Do you know? And they get emotional, they get offended. Do you know? That's the whole difference between the masculine and feminine energy. Do you know? The masculine energy, in some sense, doesn't get offended because there are bigger deals in the contrast. Do you understand? That means if you as a man, like, can imagine back in the day in medieval times, if your kingdom was attacked, they didn't care your age. It didn't matter if you were like a teenager, you know, or if you were an old man. When your kingdom was attacked in medieval times, everybody who could pick up something went to arms. Do you understand? So it was as if you'd have to be in that medieval town, some like baker's son, do you know, like baking bread, do you know, and like the closest thing to a sword is like a baguette that's like 2 months old or something. You know what I mean? And so my point is, at any moment you need to acknowledge the greater deal, the intensity of the event. The issue is masculine energy is becoming responsible for a greater spectrum of intensity than the female position. Okay? However, they are different sides to the same moment. Pay attention. It's a manner of expression. That means I am biologically a male, like I'm a physical male, okay? But look at my speech. Look at my speech. The more slower and gentler I speak, and the higher pitch, it's like more feminine. But if I speak like this intensely, and to show you that there's an intensity in this world beyond your eyes, that beyond what your eyes can fathom, do you see? That is different. And it's the same thing because the mastery of any art form required this mastering of the anima animus. Now, you might look at me and be like, hey man, what are you a master of? You know, that you're talking about mastery. Well, let me tell you, okay? If they say you got to do something more than 10,000 hours to attain mastery, I have for 10,000 hours walked. I have for 10,000 hours breathed. I have ate food probably 10,000 times. Do you understand? In so many things that repeat every day, we have a certain master. I don't have to think about walking. I don't have to think about jumping. You know, a little kid who doesn't know how to walk is going to look at me and be like, look at this master, jump from stairs, you know, like down the stairs, you know? So what I'm telling you is, in front of your eyes, we have specific rules to play it out. My recommendation is listen to the biology and play it out. Okay, do not interfere with the biology. You know, the future generations are doing weird stuff, like this weird stuff from a 90s kid, like that you better hear it. You know, I'm the old man of modern times now. You know, I'm like, no way. You know, the 90s kids are becoming the wise, go-to people, you know. And it's so funny because, poor Joe Rogan and all these guys trying to figure out what imposter syndrome is, you know, they don't realize it. A part of you has a memory before you were anything. And anytime you remember that, even though you don't remember the exact memory, but subconsciously you go into the vibe. Anyways, folks, where I'm going with this, to me, in my inner realms, I live maybe 70% of the time. I move more in my mind. In my mind, you might not believe it, guys. I it's not memories. I'm not talking about past life. It's more like capability of the mind to simulate yourself in a different time and your decision in that time. So I envisioned back in the day, I would probably be somebody who would fight with a spear, you know, or an archer or something. Years ago, I picked up a rake, and this was like 2012. I was living with my parents, and in the backyard, I was just raking the leaves on a sunny day. And I don't know how to tell you guys that I started finding a rhythm. And I started moving this rake as if it was a spear, and I already knew how to move it. Do you know what I mean? And let me tell you what I consider. Um, People use the term mastery. I use advancement. Advancement is advancement in all dimensions. To me, I'm saying that in order to attain mastery, you go through the masculine energy and feminine energy and all the different ways that it can animate until you're acquainted with all the ways it can happen. When I say beyond, believe beyond people, because we're living in an era where we don't actually see people. They can choose what we see of them. That's the difference. That means it's not just we're living in a world where the information we receive isn't honest. Those expressing the information aren't honest either. I'm going to build up on this anima animus thing. You see, the mind, everybody knows this, and all you guys, everybody's going to make arguments like, no, man, I think through words, I think through sentences. Nonsense. All of you can think visually. All of you, if you can remember the food you ate yesterday, if you can remember what yesterday looks like, that's a visual. You're all capable of visually learning. And what they've done is they've slowed down a film into freaking essays. You don't understand. Like, understanding this world is as simple as being like, okay, if nobody had told me anything, what would I do? I want you to imagine for a moment. If nobody told you anything, imagine we were born in a civilization without teachers. Imagine on everybody, all the kids are wandering around. They're like, aren't these adults going to teach us? And all the adults are silent. They correct. They're there to like, as in emergencies and all of that. But I'm telling you, imagine a civilization where they have to reinvent the wheel. And once they've reinvented you don't understand. Every gen, see, this is what life is. It's the same problem set, different solvers, different solvers, different solvers. You arise. Oh my God, is it 1991? Am I born? Okay, solve the problems until the day I leave. And then when you leave, there's one thing, because a part of me truly believes that there's a higher power here, and this whole simulation is in some sense built upon an original moment, and that original power knows beyond what the human mind knows. So I do understand that right now, even though I'm speaking to my species and there's a freedom of speech, but we're inside a box, folks, inside another box. We're inside a subjective box, inside an objective box, and you are not asking who is looking in the moment at reality. Your own eyes are the secrets you've been waiting for, but your own eyes are not eyes. They are the awareness to all the ways reality has occurred. So we have to ask ourselves, before we had any information, what was processing information? Somebody answer. I'll wait. Somebody answer. Before there was any information, how did we process the first bit of information? Only explanation is we're not conscious. The future is taking care of the past. Your intuition is probably like a parallel dimension where the future is walking to the present. I don't know. God knows. But we envision. We have been given a position in human existence. I do understand that it's weird. I do understand that, one can reach in moment of, like, I had so many, like, not so many, but there's moments where I get existential panic attacks, you know, moments when existence suddenly, its meaning is like something just makes it not make sense. Not that it has to make sense, but in some sense, you don't understand. We've been trained, everybody's conditioned in the educational system, in concept shifting. That means your idea of intelligence is probably like what you next think. Okay, they've conditioned you into a noun, and they're hoping that you see the world as a noun forever, because then all they got to do. And when I say they, guys, I'm talking about like shaitan. There is no, like, you see human souls. Yes, there are those who are chosen and those who are fallen. But to me, it's all an event. I don't know how to explain it. There is no clarity when one attends an event. The whole point of life sometimes is the surprise. You don't believe it. Like, if we knew everything right now, there would be nothing to do. It's because we don't know what's going on. We have that will to know what's going on before nothing's going on, you know, anymore. So it's very important for me to, anyways, try to explain to you that you got to look at the human position. They're going to feed you a story. They probably have. You might be living in that story. Your life may be looping, but you must ask yourself, what else do you notice from the moment? And you must also notice that which is inner. See, if I say jump in the air, and all of you, let's say, can jump in the air. If I tell you jump a kilometer into the air, your mind attempts it, believe it or not. Your mind can envision a you that has jumped a kilometer in the air. Yet in front of your eyes, you don't have access to that film. You don't have the actualization of that film. Really, what it is that I keep saying this, but I'm trying to. It's something I haven't said yet. That's it, guys. To be honest, there was one more part of the research I forgot to read. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the research. Actually, whatever. Maybe this is it. So, so I'm going back to the research component. I forgot to read parts of it. It says why actual love is not toxic. Actual love is not toxic because it does not require, I'm reading this, guys, ChatGPT 5.2. Actual love is not toxic because it does not require another person to function emotionally. Love arises from emotional self-regulation, meaning each individual can manage their own fears, needs, and insecurities without imposing them on the other. Real love develops gradually, respects time, and remains consistent regardless of emotional fluctuations. It does not punish boundaries. Does not punish boundaries, demand urgency, or collapse under uncertainty. Instead of creating dependency, love creates psychological safety. The feeling that one can think clearly, act freely, and remain oneself without fear of abandonment or retaliation. Love is stable, not overwhelming, grounding, not intoxicating. Where toxicity narrows a person's world, love expands it. So, guys, that is the best definition of love. Love is the expansion of your world. But if you're being changed too much in the process, okay, to the degree that you start, like, for a second, like, doubting who you are, right? That's when you know that you're in some weird emotional game, you know? So guys, I'm saying this to the human species. We're designed to have inner realms that nobody else can see, and we're designed to have the urge to share the inner realms in the same way we have the urge to communicate. So communication is proof that the fictional inner life is trying to manage the non-fictional outer life. So do you understand? We Let me tell you what it is. It's not like you find a human being and you're like, look at that person. They don't have any trauma. It's impossible. It's impossible to have been perfected from the start, because the nature of reality is what we can be aware of. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that's a confidence booster. Okay, on this planet, okay, out of all the species that exist, you belong to a species that has the furthest sight. You can notice the edge of the world, and people are like, Mr. Within, you've said it's edgeless. You know, the world is edgeless. How can you explain the edge of the world? I'm like, the edgelessness is the edge. The unknown is in some sense the reality. That means man-made laws are luxuries of a conditional simulated form, not realizing beyond the form there is a field of command. You don't see it. You don't see beyond every object, every matter, everything that you see that has shape. There is a command keeping it there. You don't understand. It's that command is not vocal, it's attention. Existence exists in attention. If existence was here before us, there must be an attention before us. Therefore, this world, there are those who will not allow it to lose its transcendental agency, its divine agency. You think you are enough, yet you believe in an empty room as a temporary self in a world where the poetry was, in some sense, the last goodbye. Is that how far we see? Energy is chilling over here, not being able to be created or destroyed. And we're over here not being able to know what awareness is really. But we know this is somehow powered. It's like, no way. What's energizing existence itself? All of it. It is about that moment in the life of a species. I'm not talking about in the life of humans. I don't know how I know this, okay? I don't know how in my inner realms I have a ridiculous familiarity with what an advanced civilization would look like. I don't know how, okay? Do you know? But I can tell you that the moment the human mind realizes there is another way to look at the moment, we cannot be certain of how we were looking before. In 2025, as a human member of the human species reporting to humanity and hopefully soon the advanced humanity, it was not the most advanced human being, guys. It was not advanced. 2022, 2025, 2025, excuse me, 2025, 2025, that's correct, is a year where humans are living through the prototype of their ancestors. Do you know how we shake hands? People don't know this. This is called cultural engineering. You know how people shake hands like it's normal? Hey, man, what's up? You shake hands with people you meet. Do you know where that comes from? Have you ever wondered, or have you just casually accepted? How many things The question is, the scientist, the atheist goes to the theist and says, hey, theist, what do you mean faith? Do you know, we got to know exactly how it works. Do you know? And the theist doesn't know what to say. My God, what the theist should have said. It's actually the other way around. Everything is functioning on faith. A little conscious corner of it we explain, and we think that's all of life. Before ideas existed, faith in what concept? Isn't it interesting that revelation arose when there was an ability to receive it? It is the might of the human species. You might be the most powerless person. I'm speaking to the failures, the losers, and I'm not acting I'm among the winners or the losers anymore. I am the field. I understand why Yoda was saying force, bro. You know, because it's an unknown force. We've conditionalized it to our personality, which is from the condition itself. What do you think? What do you think, in some sense, Dylan Thomas meant when he said to his father on his deathbed, when he said to his father on his deathbed, rage against the dying of the light. He said, do not go gentle into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light, which meant whatever you are left to the honor of your greatest vision. That is your purpose. If they were like, yo man, what's my mission in this in life? Do you know? It is how far you see and whether that moment clicks between me or the species. I would choose the species. Yes. Because the future, like, I may not win now. I may not be known now. But the future will know my nameless name. They will know the archetype. That go within before you die without. Rise, mankind. Kindly. You don't understand. I'm a visual thinker. The intensity of the future. You don't understand. In my sci-fi, it's Christmas. I'll share some sci-fi with you guys, you know. I have a chapter in probably my most important book, which I'm working on. It's called The Lost Children of Cyberspace, and it will break your heart. Holy shit. It is one of the most chaotic realities, because let me tell you, what they are feeding you the hero's journey over and over again. Yo, the guy is weak. He found a teacher. He overcame his struggles. He became strong. Yay. Again and again they loop to the point I'm like, what the F? Do you know? I want to be a superhero. I'm a grown-ass man. Like, what the F is this conditioning? Do you understand? I'm giving you an explanation of how they're idolizing yourself. They're distracting you by yourself, which is the most ingenious. That means I believe God is the original presence of reality is superior to all realities. I believe that there is an anti-human moderator in the system, Shaitan, and but it is a created being, and our dealings are directly with the Creator. Okay, remember that. You go directly to the if you see anybody around you spiritual, do you know what I mean? If anybody, like some dude's like, hey man, you want to talk to this alien? I want to channel him through myself. Do you know? And I'll be like, buddy, you think you're ahead, but you're behind. Let me explain it. Let me explain it this way. Shaitan is a moderator. We are users. We are in a more gullible position. We're in a more oblivious position. If there was a moderator going against the human, and its sole task was to make sure these humans believe in the simulation rather than remember the original command of their soul. God is not just a person. If you're a Christian listening to me because it's Christmas, Christ is a very advanced being. But in some sense, God is a different class because the power of God. That means if you believe in a God that is all powerful, all knowing, how do I explain it? To me, the prophets were souls that were close to God, the system admin. Okay? So close to God that they had direct destiny lines connecting to religious ideas. Do you know? That means I'm not Christian, but in the Holy Quran, there's a surah for Maryam. There's a exaltation of Christ. Do you know? And there's an exaltation of all the prophets. In the Holy Quran, it says, of course, there's a seal of prophets, but I will explain that to you in the way I've understood. If you see God as an unconditional system administrator, you will realize conditions cannot limit God. So if you believe in a condition, you're going to be ruled by that condition. Now, I'm going to say something to, how do I explain it to you? I don't believe God can die for anybody's sins. I believe God forgives sins. But yet God has, in some sense, commanded destiny. You don't understand. Fear goes away when you understand that it's not karma. I know the new age community sees it as karma, but it's actually activation in a field. To me, you know how I see it? It's gonna, like, this is honestly it, guys. This is how I see it. We can have whatever opinion we want, whatever expectation we want, whatever way we want to see it, but that decides what happens overall. That means you have a macro governing agency beyond the world, governing the macro conditions of the world. The micro, we just woke up and named ourselves and we're like, yo, we're the boss now. Like, who says? You know? To me, it appeared this way, and more as I'm living on this planet, it's becoming obvious slowly, right? That humans are not here so everybody looks at one human. You listen to one human and learn from them, and then you realize that the civilizations is the creation of God. In the, what do you said, in Islamic tradition, they call the body an amana, which means it's like something that's been given to you. It's not yours. Excuse me, it's been given to you for some time. It's not yours, right? And you got to take care of the body, right? Which I don't have an A plus on, but God willing, I do. I am awakening you to the notion that you are not in one universe. You are, or let me say it hilariously, you're inside the simulations of the human psyche are onionized. You're inside an onion universe. Shout out to the Onion Knight from Game of Thrones, you know. I don't know what else I can say here. It's like, oh my God, you know, onion sales have gone through the roof and people don't know why they're eating so many onions, you know. Like if I was an onion farmer and like if I was like some, you know, next level old onion farmer, okay, in a hypothetical reality, okay, and my son came up to me and is like, Dad, you know, and I was like peeling onions and there were no more tears. I had understood the onion, you know. I was just this onion farmer, imagine. And my son came up to me and it's like, Father, what is life? What is this world? Can you explain it? Da, 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 da. Something. I don't know. I don't think like, okay, whatever. Like in onion talk. I would show that people are like onions and there are layers to them. But what you don't realize, sometimes it's the central layers, deep layers within them that nobody sees that is moving their outer layers. The demonstration of power, force, being greater than, being stronger than, all of these are going to be child's play. That means to all those people who think they're alpha males on planet Earth, excuse me, we have a beta species. We have a beta, excuse me, not beta species. We have a beta civilization. We have an unupdated looping civilization where human beings experience themselves through just this limited, narrow canal of being an idea, a character in a story their whole life, and it ends suddenly. That is not enough. Do you know, it's like the next assembly, it's not this, it's like, how do I say it? More important than an army is the attention that changed the world. May the news of the advanced civilization spread like wildfire that never burns. But at the same time, God knows. We cannot ignore. That means the peak of certainty of man is actually the beginning of his uncertainty in the unknown. And you might be looking at me and you're like, yo, man, you're saying things not an old man would say, but someone, you know, an immortal would say, you know, like, nah, man, you don't get it. This world is a system. It has specific design. We have a specific design. We, in some sense, give meaning to reality before us giving, and sometimes we don't even know, like two people laugh at the same joke, but you don't know if they've understood it the same way. To me, it's to activate the inner realms of the species, make everybody will automatically realize. Pretty much it's like you reach a threshold of looping in life that you realize there can be other views and you wonder about them. Okay? And you have to honor what is given. And the most important thing, keep your journey natural. You know, Terence McKenna said culture is not your friend. And when I was young, you know, I didn't realize. He was right. The world outside of me doesn't know how I'm functioning inside, except the system admin. You become an honest soul when there is nothing you can hide anymore. They tell someone, why do you give pearls in front of swine? It's like, first of all, humanity is not swine and these are not pearls. It's, in some sense, you reach a point where honesty is original reality. So I am no longer paying attention to whether people are good or bad. I don't see it that way anymore. I've seen it for many years that way. I no longer have good and bad days. I have simulated days where throughout that simulated days, I had original moments. I had moments where I paused the world, both my inner realms and outer realms, and in the stillness of this massive cosmos, unknown event, feel my presence. What that means, you know what's funny? I think this is true masculinity. The hilarious realization of the unknown inevitable. It's silly, yet it's serious because we exit this system not in the smoothest way. Probably, I think this technology is going to come where people might want to, I don't know, transition in their sleep. I don't know. But who knows? All right, guys. One last part of the research component I'm going to read, and I got to head out. I got to be somewhere. The most advanced and best approach for the human species. The most advanced approach to relationships for the human species is emotional regulation before emotional connection. This means teaching individuals to recognize, manage, and take responsibility for their inner emotional states before attempting to bond deeply with others. A regulated human does not need to rush intimacy, control outcomes, or extract reassurance from another person. Instead, they approach relationships with patience, clarity, and respect for autonomy. Yeah, everybody's in their own universe. That's how it starts. At a civilizational level, the shift moves humanity away from dependency based bonding and toward cooperative, stable, and psychological mature relationships. The future of healthy human connection is not more intensity, faster attachment, or louder expressions of love. It is deeper regulation, slower development, and relationships that remain intact when pressure is removed. Guys, what this makes me think, the like when they say get married, that means find another soul that you can develop at the same pace with. And then it says what here it says final sentence to leave it to, it's the final sentence. It says if a connection makes you lose clarity, it is toxic. If it helps you remain whole, it is love. Exactly. I'm going to copy paste all of this and post it. All right, guys. I don't know how the episode was for you, but if you listen to it at all, any parts of it, write down a comment. It'll just take a couple seconds, and it'll make me understand how the talks are coming across. Thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced. When mankind truly honors what the system admin has created, all creation suddenly becomes divine. Both chaos and order have divine position in the divine command of the original moment. What does that mean? That means truth is beyond human conception. We need to relax as a species. Everybody realizes they're here to play a role in the outer realms, and behind your eyes you can adjust, just like an actor on a film set. The actor goes to the director and it's like, yo, what kind of subtext do I have in this moment? And the director's like, all right, you got to imagine like your girlfriend just broke up with you and you're like devastated, and then suddenly you hear this news in this scene, right? So the actor goes into the scene, goes into the moment with that subtext, with that inner realm consideration. Actors are pretty method actors are those who are getting lost in their inner realms. But I think it's childish. I don't know. I think method acting, I mean, I understand that the emotion you feel as a artificial character can be so raw that the performance, like the true expressions of the soul of the individual, is like expressing out of that character they are on set. Like I can appreciate like the complexity of acting psychology, you know. Um, as a graduate of Toronto Film School, pretty much, representing Canada in the film universe. It's like, oh, Canada, make more films. I'm joking, though. It's an incredible place because incredible views can arise anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been living as a nationalistic character in a story, and there's nothing wrong with that. You have been living as an idea and a name that has owned you your whole life, and there's nothing wrong with that. You require these to function in the subjective linguistic simulation we've overlaid upon every object to make it fit the story our mind is generating contextually to it. And so there will come a moment where the dualistic, how can I say it? The ego will realize it cannot go beyond infinity. It doesn't know out of infinite view. The mind doesn't know out of infinite viewpoints what to choose. Therefore, it realizes it might have gone beyond the box of duality, but it is still trapped in the box of infinity. The only thing that can, in some sense, choose the correct choice out of the infinite viewpoints, the true ontology, it comes from the ontology itself, meaning it's the system admin's mercy. That means the day is as if you wonder about what is a field of activity doing in its manifest nodes. We're the tip of the iceberg, yet we judge ourselves as if the tip of the iceberg is the whole iceberg. Anyways, folks, it's Christmas. Merry Christmas. And the thing about relationships, just be very conscious, guys. This has come to my attention recently that communication, if it doesn't match with action, was flattery. That's it. Do you understand? Like there is no, who knows? God knows. Anyways, thank you for listening.